back to that, were there film directors or writers that inspired you?
You know, you could absolutely, point to the Marvel movies and the influence of big blockbuster action. I will say a television show Banshee, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with.
Somebody brought that up to me like 2 days ago.
Yeah, it aired on Cinemax. It starred Anthony Starr, who is Homelander from The Boys. He is the main character. Great show. It's real pulpy. It's a drifter blows in from out of town. The sheriff is in the bar with him. The sheriff gets murdered at the bar, and so the drifter assumes the sheriff's identity.
Yes.
And now becomes the sheriff of this small town. And he's just going around kicking ass and taking names. And so there were a lot of fight scenes. That show, more than any other show I've seen in the past decade, has the best fight scenes on television.
Is that the show with all the white supremacists?
There were some white supremacists later on in the season.
Maybe season 2?
Yeah, season 3, I think. So it's on Cinemax.
Somebody's wife gets beat up by some dude?
I don't think so. It's been a while.
Remember.
This show came out probably like 6 or 7 years ago.
I think I'm talking about Banshee. I'm pretty sure because I saw a clip of it and asked a buddy of mine about it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, it's great,
Yeah,
fantastic."
So the fight scenes from that, because
Are you on it?
I'm choreographing a lot of scenes from hand-to-hand combat with demons. And so the language, the kind of fight language and choreography absolutely was inspired in large part by Banshee.
Wow.
So great show. Check it out. And then, Supernatural obviously was probably the biggest influence if you talk about television, not just in terms of the story, but in terms of a lot of the locations and the kind of imagery that you would see. That was, without a doubt, the biggest influence.
The CW was, at one point, the golden age of television.
Well, we were talking
for storytelling.
Michael Rosenbaum with Smallville.
Shout out, Mike.
That's right. Love that show. Grew up watching that show. And I will say, I think they hit a little bit of a rough patch here with all the superhero shows. The quality has really declined. But Superman and Lois, that show, I went in with, because I'm a huge Superman guy. And so I was like, I'll check this show out. But if it's anything like the other CW shows that it spun out of, it's going to suck. Great show.
I'm going to say this.
Great show.
I don't think anybody would fight me on this, really. Maybe one or two. I think Michael Rosenbaum was the best Lex Luthor to ever live.
I have no argument there whatsoever.
Best. And I don't know if you heard the news about what Rosenbaum and Tom Welling are doing.
They're working on an animated series?
And they're voicing.
I love that. That's so exciting.
I'm so pumped for that product.
I think Tom coming back in with the Crisis on Infinite Earths and having that scene with Erica Durant's, reprising that Clark Kent, Lois Lane role, I think that probably got them, opened their eyes a bit to how nostalgic like my generation is for this show.
I grew up, I was a freshman when Clark Kent was a freshman in Smallville.
Okay.
So, I literally grew up the same time. That he was growing up and going through, all those things that teenagers go through.
That's right.
And, man, that writing, and then you were talking about Supernatural.
Yep.
I think Supernatural had a pretty good source of, it's the Brothers Grimm. You know what I mean?
It was, urban legends, right? Like the Hook Man and
which was
Bloody
another
Mary.
Michael Rosenbaum movie.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think what I loved about Supernatural was the cast.
Yes.
What a strong cast.
That's right. That show doesn't work if that show isn't perfectly cast.
Exactly.
It's a great story and a great plot, but a story and a show built around two brothers, you have to nail that. If you don't, the show is sunk. The reason it went 15 seasons and is the longest running fantasy series in television history is because of Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki.
And both of which bought into their role. Both of which didn't fight for stardom.
No.
Both of which put, whatever. Nobody's going to say that things don't get heated on a set. How many times behind the scenes did they probably put differences aside? We got something to do here.
That's right. We got a show to make. A show that is beloved. You talk about cult classic.
Yes.
Huge, just devoted fan base. Supernatural, I would put them against anyone. Like,
really?
You saw how many times Entertainment Weekly would have their cover that was chosen by the fans, so fans could vote on which show made the cover. Mm-hmm. I think Supernatural won like 5 or 6 years in a row, late in its run.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's definitely a fan favorite.
Cult following for sure.
Cult following.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
is there another TV show, maybe not so fantasy, that you've gravitated towards? You just fell in love with watching.
I mean, Friday Night Lights.
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
watching that right now. Again.
I have my
That's
Mount
good.
Rushmore of television shows.
Let's
It's
do it.
pretty easy. It's Justified, it's Breaking Bad, it's Friday Night Lights, and it's Parks and Rec. That's it for me.
See, right off the bat for me, I would go Smallville. I really want to put The Walking Dead up there. There were a couple seasons that have been,
Yeah.
but I still love the classic Walking Dead. Breaking Bad
Yep.
as well.
Yep.
Hard to fight that. Friday Night Lights is up there for me. I could probably throw something else in there. Maybe. It kind of depends on what kind of mood I'm in.
And I've always approached this as I only get to watch these 4 shows for the rest of my life. That's how I look at the Mount Rushmore. For me,
Yeah.
now you could say artistry or how it made you feel or the memories. There's so many criteria you could use for the Mount Rushmore argument. That's always mine is what 4 shows do I want, if I had to pick, do I want to watch for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
So that's it for me. And those shows have the added benefit of making me feel like no other shows have. Like Friday Night Lights, you talk about having that kind of connection to when you were in high school. I mean, seeing the way, especially they shot that show, and I know you could speak more to that. I think they called it like 3 cameras and go, right? It was very much lived in kind of feel. And man, having it just brought up those memories of being in high school and being awkward and trying to talk to girls
Yes.
and, you know, all those kind
We
of
were all Matt
experiences.
Saracen.
Exactly.
We weren't-
all of us were Matt Saracen.
We were not all the quarterback.
We weren't Jason Street.
No.
Yeah,
no.
pre-injury, you know.
But none of us, very few of us, were the quarterback.
Yeah.
But we were all Matt Saracen.
And we all knew some Riggins, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's a big one for me. Absolutely.
Awesome. Is there anything else about the book that you want to put out there in this world?
So the book is obviously, check it out. It's on a scrappy little underdog indie book website called Amazon.com if you want to check it out.
Never heard of it.
That's like the rainforest.
What the hell is Amazon.com?
You can buy copies of the book, both books. Ebook is available as well, and we also have for our audio fans out there, the audiobook for The Devil's Halo is actually out wide right now. Audible, Scribd, Google Books, wherever you get your audiobooks.